Free agency starting next week. You got compensatory picks that have officially been awarded on Tuesday, March 10th. That's when we're recording this. And Mike going on a crazy rant this morning on Twitter. Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Giants Brawl podcast brought to you by the Brawl Network. As always, I'm your host for this evening, Usaid Kosho. You can follow me on Twitter at Usaid Kosho. Go ahead and follow Mike Trainor on Twitter at Mike Trainor MFT. And then Anthony scored 9 points in a basketball game, but his specialty is football. So go ahead and follow him on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Guys, what is going on?
Same old, bud. Same old. Ready to talk some football.
Just got bounced out of the playoffs, so hanging my head a little bit lower today, but I'll push through.
Well, hold on. Why would you hang your head a bit lower when you know that you have the greatest quarterback in the world for the best football team in the Big Apple?
I wanted that playoff win, man. I'm hungry for success, and we fell short of it because we got some players on our team that like to play hero ball and don't know how to pass in the fourth quarter. So it happens, but I guess we'll do better next season.
We all been there, man. We all play losers like that. I hate those people. I don't like
the worst.
Anyway, guys, so, CBA negotiations are stalling, so you just have no idea what's going to go on in free agency. I mean, if there's a deal that's agreed to between now and like Sunday or Monday when free agency does start and teams can begin talking to players, legally begin talking. I put that in air quotes just because, some of these deals were already done at the combine or the groundwork was laid. But I know Mike's been Mike, I'll start with you. You've been kind of pissed off at people, and you tagged the Twitter account at Giants Brawl in a tweet this morning saying people need to chill the F out about the Leonard Williams trade. What's going on, man? Give us your thoughts.
I sure did. I just woke up in a bad mood today because last night Ian Rappaport came out saying that the Giants and Leonard Williams are not even close on a deal, right? Okay, Giant fans. They all started panicking. Oh, my God, get him, and you gave a third and a fifth-round pick for a guy you rented for a couple games, right? All this nonsense. Like, what are you guys worried about? Like, let me just give you a list before Gettleman got here of just third and fifth round guys, right? I posted this on my Twitter account, but I'll read it off to you guys. First guy, Davis Webb. Great guy, man. He carried Eli's clipboard around for him for a while. Nice guy. You can't knock him. I mean, he wasn't Kyle Loletta. He's not driving the wrong way on the turnpike and kill you before you head to a Giant game. He's not a lunatic. If you ever see Kyle Loletta, and he's in a car and he wants to give you a ride, do not get in. Next guy, Avery Moss. What has he done? Hasn't done shit. Darren Thompson. He had a couple good games. Paul Perkins could never see on the field. Okus Andua, I can't even pronounce his name. Didn't he just quit on the Giants after a while? He couldn't take it anymore. He's like, I'm done playing football. Thompson, Jay Bromley, Nat, Demartre Moore. He's just like a psychopath. Lacked discipline totally. Cooper Taylor, Jaron Holsey, Jarrell Jernigan. He was supposed to be that quick little wide receiver. He was supposed to be the Tyreek Hill before Tyreek Hill even came to the league. Chad Jones, he hurt himself in the car accident, probably driven by Kyle Loletta. Mitch Petrus, he was solid, outline. Rams Barden, he was supposed to be the next Plaxico. I think he called no touchdown passes. He was 7 feet tall. The list goes on and on before Gettleman got here. So people are worried about a third and a fifth when you know what you're getting. If you sign Leonard Williams, you know what you're getting. He's a solid, one of the top defensive linemen. All he needs is help. Get some good players on the edge to help him out so he don't get double teamed. And maybe he'll be okay. Everybody needs to calm down because before Gettleman got here, our draft picks sucked. And you're worried about a third and a fifth round pick. I mean, come on, guys. Let's not get crazy. And also the people that want to pay the guy. Who cares? It's not our money. Pay the guy. The cap doesn't matter, man. They could cut him after a while, so some dead money. What's it going to stop us from signing, who? It doesn't matter, guys. Everybody needs to chill out. Let Gettleman do what he does.
Well, you mentioned a lot of those names, and Ramses Barden, I totally forgot about because he's irrelevant, okay? Because back at that time, all the rage was Victor Cruz, right? That was all the Giants had, and then Jerry Reese drafted Odell Beckham. But the point is that there's a benefit out of some of these comp picks. I mean, you know who took over New York this past season and was a compensatory selection? Darius Slayton was. So the point is that you can find good picks with that. With those comp picks, you can find something good. I mean, Anthony, what do you think about Mike's rant?
I took notes on Mike's rant, so here we go. You're talking about picks from before Dave Gettleman was here.
Right.
You're not even talking about the picks since Dave Gettleman got here. So
I was
why
going
don't we take a look at those?
Go ahead.
I mean, all right, hold on. Let me find them. I'm going to pull them up.
He did good. He did good.
He did do good. So you're the guy. You love this guy, and you're giving up faith on him. You got Julian Love in the 4th round. Looks like he's going to be a starter for a while. In the 5th round, you got Ryan Connolly and Darius Slayton. And let's look at 2018 as well. Let's see. You got Lorenzo Carter. I'll give you that one. That's not the best. B.J. Hill, though, was a solid starter until we made this stupid trade. And let's find some more. Let's see who he had in the 5th round that year. R.J. McIntosh. That's a defensive lineman right there. And now he can't even get on the field because of Leonard Williams. We could have had something there with McIntosh. He looked like a solid player when he was on the field. But now we'll never know because we traded for Leonard Williams. And if we throw all this money at him, I mean, and if we don't throw all this money at him, that's the problem. If he's on the team for 5 games, we just forfeit a 3rd-round pick for no reason. And the comp pick that we get in exchange is 30 picks back. I know we just got a comp pick today, 99 overall. Yeah, it's a top 100 pick. That's good. But we had number 68 overall. That's a huge talent difference. Plus, we'll talk about a few more 3rd and 5th-round picks in recent memory. We got Marshall Yanda, Jason Witten, Russell Wilson, Steve Smith Sr., Navarro Bowman, T.Y. Hilton, Tyrann Mathieu, Evan Mathis. And let's go to the 5th round. Tyreek Hill, Trent Cole, Rashad Jones, George Kittle. That's a good one. Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman. So it's possible to find talent in these later rounds, and you can't just be giving them up sparingly. Plus, we saw A.J. Boye just got traded to the Broncos for a 4th-round pick, and he's going to be a solid starter on that team for the next 3 years. And we can't, I mean, again, we might not even be keeping Leonard Williams. The one saving grace I'll say, though, and I'll give you this point, if we do tag and trade Leonard Williams, there's a good chance we can get a 3rd-round pick in return if the market is as competitive as they're making it out to be. So I'll give you that point. But overall, there was really no point to make this trade. He's about to be a free agent. We could have negotiated with him now rather than trading these picks and wasting time because we traded them. And if he doesn't re-sign with us, then what was it for? Because we could have just signed him in the offseason anyway.
Well, you're proving my point, too, and like with all the knock on Gettleman, now you're saying, like, oh, he's been drafting, like, really well the past 2 years. That's my point, too, against these Giant fans that are going after him about making this deal.
But wouldn't you want more picks, more great picks by Gettleman?
Well, that's the thing. Like, all right, like, say, like, 3rd and 5th round picks, they're hard to come by. Gettleman really struck it the past 2 years, right? I mean, maybe not, like, 2 years ago. Like, that's to be determined. But, like, we know what we're getting in Leonard Williams. I don't want him to go. I want them to sign him. I think he's solid. He knows what he's getting. He loves defensive linemen. Dude, it's tough, man. It's really tough. But you prove my point. The knock, what everybody's knocking Gettleman, but the guy's making good draft picks. So where do you go with that? Like, you could play both sides of the fence. I need Giant fans to be like, all right, I like Gettleman or I don't like Gettleman.
Okay, I don't like Gettleman, but I think he's good at drafting. I think he's bad at handing out contracts, and I think he's probably going to walk himself into throwing a bad contract at Leonard Williams. But my point is, if you're so good at drafting, you want more picks, more great draft picks, because the draft is a crapshoot. It really is 50-50. Isaiah Simmons, Chase Young, they look like the real deal. Both of them could be out of the NFL in 3 years. You don't know because it's really a crapshoot. You don't know what kind of work ethic they're going to get when they get to the league. But some of those guys, some of those gems you'll find have a great work ethic. But it's a crapshoot. The hit rate is low, so you want to get as many chances to get these guys as you can because you never know when you're going to sneak in a 3rd-round Hall of Famer sometime, which I don't think he ever has, but you never know because maybe he could have hit. Maybe number 68 overall would have been Chase Claypool, and he goes on to be the next Plaxico Burress for us and not the next Ramses Barden. He could have been the next Ramses Barden, but he could have been Plaxico. You never know. You want more picks, not less, and now we're going to have to pay this guy, but if we pay him, I guess it's worth it. But if not, he better get a 3rd-round pick in return for the trade after he franchise tags him.
I think he will. We got plenty of picks, though. Like, we're getting a former 1st-round draft pick. The guy's good. He helped us with stopping the run. I like the guy, you know?
Like okay, here's the thing, and I'll touch on Anthony's point of like people or like guys not being proven players. If someone like Simmons or Chase Young or like Chase Claypool, for example, they come into the league and they bust, I'm not blaming the GM. I'm blaming the coaching staff because it's their job to go ahead and develop the talent,
The
right?
GM helps
The talent
pick the
at the front
coaching
office.
staff. So it's the
Yeah,
GM's
but like
fault.
I'm saying after the draft though, Anthony. Like after the draft, I get Gettleman had a say in Joe Judge being the head coach. I totally get that. But like once the GM pulls the trigger, it is the coach's job to develop the talent, right? And if you're not developing talent correctly, then as a coaching staff, you're not going to be in the NFL very long, or you're just you're going to lose your job in a couple of years. The point is though is the fact that like there's having 99 overall is still better than having no third round pick, because then what would you have done? You would have gone from like you would have had 4-36, and then you would have had to wait until like the earlier
110.
parts of the until 110, right? So now you have 99 and you have a selection like 12 picks later, and you can trade these compensatory picks, right? So you know what? If Gettleman decides like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take 99 and 110, for example, to try to trade up and get someone, like that's okay with me, because you're not gonna make the jump from 99 to like 60 or 68. You won't do that, but you can at least get yourself into like the 70 or 80 range.
Okay, you can, and you brought up the points of the coaching staff and all that, but Mike listed a lot of players that were drafted by Jerry Reese, but they played under Tom Coughlin. And we're not about to discredit our man, my grandfather, not really, but I wish, Tom Coughlin. That guy knew how to develop players, get the best out of them. He was an excellent, excellent head coach. He's going to be in the Ring of Honor. That's the man. So it's not always completely on the coaching staff. Sometimes these players just come in, they have a bad work ethic once they get their paycheck, or maybe it's just a terrible pick and they just shouldn't have been picked where they were. Eli Apple should not have been a top 10 pick. There's a lot of those players that come in the league, look like they should be stars, and they kind of bust. And honestly, you could make the argument Leonard Williams might be one of those players. That guy was supposed to be dominant, and he hasn't been dominant. He's been a solid player. He's been a really good player, but he hasn't been the dominant guy that they expected him to be coming out of college. And I know Jets coaching staff, Jets GM, yeah, that could be a confounding variable, but we did trade for him, and he wasn't dominant. He was still just really good. So I think it goes both ways. Yeah, it could be on the coaching staff, but sometimes it's just the players, and that's why I think the draft is a crapshoot. You want more picks and not less.
Well, it really depends on like who we're going to get like in free agency. What if we go out and fill up a lot of needs in free agency? Like it's all determined to what goes on there, because then all of a sudden that draft is going to switch to like, all right, if we draft a couple, if we sign a couple offensive linemen, then you kind of know we're going to go defense with that number 4 pick, or vice versa. If we sign a bunch of defensive players, you kind of get like the direction where they're going after the free agency period is over.
Yeah, you do, and that's what the number 4 overall pick. But for those later picks, those 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, those you're mainly looking for solid depth players, like a good receiver just in case Sterling Shepard gets another concussion, for example, or another safety just in case something happens and Jabril Peppers gets hurt again. Players that have a little bit of an injury history. We want depth behind those places or behind those players, and you find those pieces in the later rounds. You get those solid depth guys who you never know could just end up being your future starter. But you got them on a really cheap contract because you drafted them in the back rounds to be a depth piece. And then all of a sudden, Antonio Brown, he was a 6th round pick. I don't think he hit the field much. And then once he did, they were like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. Now he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you're right. The work ethic, man. He was like on special teams returning punts, I think, his first year. And then all of a sudden, man, he just put in the work. And that's what happens when you develop guys and they have that will.
For sure. So I'm glad I changed your mind then, Mike.
I mean, you did a little bit. I feel like I'm still off edge, man. It's been a long day, man. I woke up in that mood, man, after like reading all these Giant tweets last night.
Yeah, well, reading Giants Twitter is bound to put anybody in a bad mood.
It gets me sometimes, man.
Yep.
I can't.
Especially after what happened last week.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, but see, in all seriousness, like you can get, having a lot of draft. So here's the thing, Anthony. You touched on having a lot of draft picks, and that's good. But then at the same time, like it's also going to get to a point where certain guys like they will not get the opportunity to play because if you draft it so well, I mean, some of these starters, right? Like, look, here's the deal. So Darius Slayton, for example, I mean, they could draft another stud wide receiver in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, whatever it is. And the Giants have 2 7th-round compensatory picks, by the way. But the point is the fact that like at a certain point, this happened with the Green Bay Packers, is certain guys will not get a chance to play, but then when they go to other teams, that's when they're going to blossom. Why? Because they'll be given an opportunity. So sometimes, like, having more draft picks is ideal, but other times, like, it's not the most ideal thing. And sometimes you may just decide, hey, look, if I've got, like, 8 draft picks this year, that's great. But I really only need 6 of them. Let me see what I can do, trade back, get rid of 2 of these, and then potentially get some draft capital for like 2021, 2022, 2023. So like it all just depends, I think, in 2 ways. One, how does the board fall? And 2, just your quantity over selections. Because let's be real, like quality of players trumps quantity of draft picks or quantity of players anytime.
Well, I think if you look at the state of this roster, there's a lot of holes that need to be patched up. And you're talking about a lot of those depth pieces with having a lot of picks. And I think when you look at this roster, if you look at the Patriots or the Chiefs, sure, they should be trading their picks away because they've got sound rosters. They don't really need so many depth pieces or need to take chances on later guys because they've got their starting lineup. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. They've got their team in place. But with the Giants, we are far from having our team in place. I know we've got holes in 3 spots on the offensive line. We probably have a question mark in the receiving core. We definitely have a question mark at tight end. I know we like to think that our offense is like one play away from being complete, and I would like to say that it is, but it's not. And our defense, I think our defensive line is good now, but we've got holes in the linebacking core. Edge rushers need an upgrade. Safeties need an upgrade. Cornerbacks need upgrades. That's the entire defense. We need more picks, not less. The best teams are the ones that have less picks. The worst teams are the ones that need more picks. The Dolphins are doing it right. That's why everybody wants us to trade down, is to get more picks, to get more depth players. The Dolphins are doing it right. The Giants, I think, unfortunately, are probably doing it wrong. I would like it if we had more draft picks.
Yeah, but this year we got $80 million in like free agent money. We're gonna sign all ex-New England players, and they're gonna come over here and
I
play.
hope not.
You know?
Well, okay. You see, here's what I'll say about like just going out and blowing all your money in free agencies. Didn't we see Jerry Reese do that in 2016?
Exactly.
And then how did that turn out? So like the thing is I think the best teams. The
It's good for a year. 1 year.
Why 1 year? Yeah.
The defense. See, here's the issue, right? So Jerry Reese did that as basically a last resort because like he got fired after 2017,
Yep.
and the issue was the fact that like Jerry did that just because like. For all those years, like if you go back and you look at his draft classes from 2007 to 17, I mean, there are no players that are even currently on the roster. On top of that, right, the 2 Super Bowl championships that he had in a 4-year window, those were more so Ernie Accorsi's drafting. I mean, I'd probably say this right now, Reese's best draft pick would probably be Jason Pierre-Paul, not Odell Beckham, because obviously Odell was an issue himself. It was JPP. So the point is that like this team has a lot of holes. I know some people are like, oh, let's go after Clowney and Yannick Ngakoue. One other NFC East team has inquired about Yannick Ngakoue, by the way, and it's not the Giants. The point is the fact that don't blow all your money in free agency. Be smart about it. Your smart signing in free agency and your big signing could be someone like I mentioned last week, like a Trevathan or a Kyle Van Noy, one of those guys. And then go ahead and just continue to build the roster in 2020. This way, by 2021, you have the foundation laid. That's what it's going to take. Because if you look at some of the positional needs that the Giants have this year, right? Like cornerback. I mean, I'd like to think they could upgrade the wide receiver room just because it's such a deep class. Some people would hate them picking a wide receiver, but I would be all for it, honestly, because you can get a Hamler or a Rigor at 36 or Brandon Ayuk. I would say that, even safety is a need where they have an upgrade, and those are strong positions in this year's draft.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure is, man. I wouldn't mind that either, man. If they drafted a wide receiver, like maybe in the third round, I might be fine with that. But you guys are right. I mean, Jerry Reese, like with his past draft, he set his back. Like there was years ago, like we drafted like Eric Flowers number 1. We could have had Todd Gurley. Yeah, I think I was yelling at the TV. Todd Gurley was there. I drafted Eric Flowers. I went nuts on that one. Later on, Eli Apple, right? Remember when we're going after this quarterback, Eli Apple. I'm like, who is this guy? After they panicked because they lost, your guy in the Bears,
Oh,
Con.
Leonard Floyd, yeah.
So they lost out on him. But Larry Tunzel was right there, a great offensive lineman. So what? He wore a gas mask when he was smoking weed. Give us a shit. Like draft that guy. He would have been your starting left tackle for the next 10 years, and they let him slip away because they had Eric Flowers. I mean, it set us back. So Gettleman, in the past 2 years, he's fixing it. I understand like you want a lot of draft picks, but we got the money now for free agency. Let them draft and sign some guys. Don't sign a guy like the Carolina former running back for like 2 years, like $100 million for some strange reason. Maybe he was just panicking to try to like fill some holes. I kind of get that because it's New York. It doesn't matter now, but let him work, man. Let him work, man, and get him in. We trust, right?
Maybe. But you did mention that you wouldn't mind the receiver with the third round draft pick. I gotta say, we could have snagged a pretty good receiver with the 68th overall pick. It would have been a nice player. But also, I want to hit on Usaid's point when we're talking about free agency. I really like hope and pray Byron Jones is our big splash signing. I know you mentioned Kyle Van Noy and Danny Trevathan. I just think, yeah, we've got the money to sign a few players. I know, but I mean, cornerback to me is way more important than edge rusher because I think you can get an elite cornerback, and if you look at the success rate on signing free agent cornerbacks, I think it's a lot higher than on the edge rushers. Just look at the Giants. We got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was with us for a while, and he made all pro teams. You got Janoris Jenkins made all pro and was with us for a while, and then you got Olivier Vernon who was never on the field, barely ever putting up sacks, and was gone within a few years. I think the Giants. I mean, just think about what a great pass coverage does for a pass rush. The longer that the quarterback has to stand there waiting for somebody to get open, the more time the pass rush has a chance to get to the quarterback. So I think that if we're talking about the draft, maybe get that edge rusher because it's on a good cheap deal. But in free agency, I think they got to prioritize the secondary and shore up that cornerback room.
I like to see that.
So speaking of free agency, I'm stalking Anthony's Twitter timeline right now because I went to DM him a couple minutes before we recorded this thing. But yeah, Anthony, so you retweeted from Giants fans online that Giants have fifth most in cap space per spot track, which is going to be a hell of a lot of money to spend, and the cap could jump between now and when free agency opens. So it's going to be fun to see just what happens because right now it's a 77.8 million, fifth most in the NFL. You could easily be looking at them having like close to 85, 90, even $100 million in cap space. So it's going to be fun to see. And when you look at the teams that are ranked 1 through 4, you have Miami, the Colts, Tampa Bay, and the Bills. Now of that five, right? The best team is clearly the Bills. Buccaneers are garbage. They're not going to be good for another 2 years because Arians needs to build the roster out. Colts, well, yeah, they're probably going to go all in on Phil Rivers. Miami, we know, is just building for the draft, right? I don't foresee Miami being super competitive in the free agent market. So you have 77.8 million. So Anthony, who are some guys that you're looking like, hardcore as we get into this in-depth free agency preview? Who are some guys you're looking at that, like, yeah, the Giants absolutely need to have him?
Well, like I said, Byron Jones by far is the number one. Absolutely have to have him. The guy used to play safety. If we wanted to, we could put him at safety, but I think he's better as a cornerback, and he's one of the most athletic players in the league. He set records at the combine with his broad jump, and his athleticism and his size. He's a pretty tall cornerback. I think he's 6'1", at least 6 foot. I know that, and he's very physical. He's got the ability to guard tight ends, big-bodied receivers. But I know we've talked about him a lot, and so I'll say another name is Kyle Van Noy because, like I said, the edge rushers are going to be really expensive. Kyle Van Noy is going to be about half the price of Jadeveon Clowney, about half the price of Yannick Ngakoue almost. and I think he could be just as productive because he's got the versatility to play linebacker, off ball, or edge rusher. And I think he's a solid contributor. He'll probably be around 3 years, 10 million, rather than 5 years, 22 million a year. So I think Hal Benoit is like the perfect value signing for the defense as an edge rusher or linebacker. And I'm pretty sure there is mutual interest between the two in getting a deal done next week.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think? Who do you want the Giants to just go out and sign?
Besides those two guys, I love what Ant said about those two guys. I mean, who wouldn't want those two? But I got to go with offensive line here. I like Connor McGovern. He's a center, formerly of Denver. He's a free agent. He's young. The Giants are looking for young players. I think he's like 25, 26 years old. Last year, he played in all 16 games. He had no penalties. 1 sack allowed. If you secure that inside interior line with him, Will Hernandez and Kevin, I mean, I'm not too worried about the right tackle, left tackle. Right tackle, I think maybe Gates has a shot to start there. I think Solder has a bounce back year, and with Daniel Jones, I mean, if he sees the edge rushers coming, he's got the speed to roll out. They could call a lot of plays where it lessens the load on these guys. Because when Eli's back there, Eli needed to protect the pocket. He needed a solid pocket. Eli's not going to roll out that much, and he's not going to have that mobility as Daniel does. So, I'm looking forward to them really signing a really good center to shore up that line and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Like, so this is see, it's interesting because you brought up the offensive line, and that's like one of the biggest needs on this team. I mean, the only real guy I look at that I'm like, okay, is pretty sure like solidified his future with this team on the offensive lines, Will Hernandez. I mean, regarding Nick Gates, so I had Dan Shiner, however you say his last name. We had me and him went back and forth via the Twitter account on Twitter last week, and he tweeted something about Nick Gates, and I'm like, hey, look, we discussed this already. It's time to get rid of some of these older vets because these younger guys are going to be the future of your team. Like Mike Remmers, when that report came out last week, I was like, hey, this is good because Mike Remmers, a 30-year-old, he's not the future of this team. Nick Gates is a guy that you look at and is the future of this team. But just when you look into free agency, I mean, there's some good offensive linemen that I think they could sign. But just looking at one guy right now, I think that no one's talking about, and this is more of just like a veteran move if he does become available, because he was really productive, would be Derek Wolf. I mean, I know this guy missed 12. So this guy played in 12 games last year, missed 25% of the season. But even that, when you look at it, like he's been durable. He still managed to come in and notch 7 sacks. So like Derek Wolf's a guy that if he does end up falling to that second wave of free agency, if he's not returning to Denver because they're kind of undergoing their own roster purge on the defensive side of the ball, he's a guy I wouldn't mind bringing in on like a 2 or 3 year deal because he's only 30 years old and you can still get high quality play out of him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. Another guy, Graham Glasgow. He's the guard center from Detroit. He's another guy that played like pretty much the whole season. No penalties and not that many sacks. That could be a big upgrade too for the Giants.
But what about that guy Tom Brady?
Can he play right tackle?
We could certainly try and get him to.
Man, I don't want that guy nowhere near a Giants team. Unless the only time I want him close to a Giants team when we're playing him in the Super Bowl because we always beat him. That's it.
Good call.
Yeah, and then so look, right? I'm glad you brought Tom Brady up because I was thinking about this earlier today when I was crafting the outline. Look, I don't want. I know the Giants they picked up Alex Tanney's option, but can we be real about something? Like we do not need Alex Tanney. Should be holding the clipboard next season. He should be in a hoodie and shorts, standing on the sideline, running the damn scout team. If you need to have, what's an underrated problem in today's NFL that nobody talks about until it affects their team? Backup quarterback. We've seen teams like the Patriots, they flipped, Brissett and Jimmy G for day 2 draft picks, which then
Right.
turned out to be pretty valuable. You need to get a good backup quarterback. And I'm not saying go break the bank for Bridgewater because he's going to get starting caliber money. And Gettleman would be a moron to blow all his money on Bridgewater. Don't even think about Jameis Winston. Guys like Nate Sudfeld, AJ McCarron, or Marcus Mariota. No, go get a guy like a Case Keenum, for example, a guy who isn't going to break your bank, right? But then has shown that he can step up and play at a high level when called upon. So Keenum's a guy that when you're looking at this backup quarterback situation, like I would certainly go ahead and welcome the idea of it because he's been around the NFL. He's a journeyman. Yeah, he's been around like 6 or 7 teams, but he's gotten the job done.
What about drafting one and developing one?
Well, okay, so if you drafting and developing one is certainly an option, but like at the same time, I mean, is that guy gonna, you really gonna expect him to step up if Danny Dimes goes down? That happens, and knock on wood, by the way. That's why like having that good veteran presence there is so crucial. One, because he serves as your quarterback coach, and two, because he can step up and play. And with backup quarterbacks, you're not asking much. You're not asking them to like win the game, right? You're just asking them to not lose you the game and keep your team in the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think going the veteran route is better, especially since I know we have a lot of late round draft picks, but I don't really think it's wise to waste what number of draft picks we have on a quarterback, especially for the reason that you just said, Usaid. I definitely think having a veteran presence to help out Daniel Jones is better than having a young guy that Daniel Jones is going to be teaching.
What about Big Dick Nick Foles? What about him? He'll probably be a free agent, man. I'm expecting him to get cut.
I don't think they're
No,
going to be able to get rid of that contract.
dude, they would. Okay, so I've looked into like over the cap and whatnot, just kind of run the numbers on this. I mean, he's got a ridiculous cap hit for 2020. I think it's like between 15 and 20 million. But the point is the fact that they're gonna have to do what the Texans did to Brock Osweiler a couple years ago, in the sense that they're gonna have to trade him away, but then also the Jags, right? They'd have to trade him away and keep him on the books. And let's be real, like Nick Foles is super overrated because the deal with him is he's a system quarterback. Like if you go back and watch that I think it was 2017 playoff game, right, against the Atlanta Falcons at home. Like I get the Eagles number one seed, they had home field advantage, but Foles was trash in the first half. He did not look good. He was missing guys left and right. When they made those halftime adjustments, started to cater the system to fit his system quarterback strengths, like boom, that's when he finally came alive. So like Nick Foles is not a guy that I would want.
Yeah, listen,
I,
he's an Eagle, so it was just a joke. I don't want him anywhere close to the Giants. But anybody that plays with the Eagles is trash. Plus, he's probably friends with Deshaun Jackson, and I hate that dude.
oh, me too.
So screw them. But yeah, I mean, I'll take a veteran QB if they want to bring somebody over like that. But they love Tanny for some reason. He got a great relationship. I know what you say like he's not going to come in and win you 16 games. It's not happening.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be able to win any games either. And I definitely think they should get somebody back there who actually knows how to play football and not just coach football. I think they should sign him to the coaching staff at this point. I mean, there's definitely not another team in the league that's looking to sign him to be a backup quarterback. But, I mean, it's just a waste of a roster space. Why not just give him the promotion to being a coach full time?
Yeah, it's true.
See, this is the thing with this podcast, right? We discuss issues on the Giants roster or relevant to the Giants that no one else is willing to discuss. Because all off season, people have been kind of like, basically since January, people have been like, oh, Jadeveon Clowney, or go get this guy and this guy. And everyone's been on the Simmons hype train, which is fine, man. But let's be real. There's so many, there's issues on this roster. There's too many holes that run deeper than most people think, and they're not going to be fixed in one draft class. That's why with free agency, like if they bring in a veteran quarterback, I know some people are going to be like, oh, what a stupid move, but it's totally worth it because like that's a position that, like I said a couple moments ago, nobody talks about until like you actually have that problem.
Yeah, then you go out and sign some loser on the street or whatever, or then all the media people's like, oh, what about Kaepernick? And then they start bringing that up. It's more annoying than anything else, man. Just have like it's tough, man, to find like a good quarterback to have like to be able to back up your team, man. It's not very realistic today in the NFL, man, to have that guy.
For sure, and the Giants definitely need to make sure that it's a priority for them to find that backup quarterback for Daniel Jones. And if they really do believe that Alex Tanney is that backup quarterback and he can go in and not lose games by playing a game, then I guess we'll just have to trust them on that one because Daniel Jones seems to like him. I know that they have a pretty good relationship, so maybe Tanney's the guy. Maybe they can find someone to do a little bit of a better job, and hopefully they're competitive in the backup quarterback market in free agency.
Yeah, did you guys see the report that came out from the Jets reporter that was basically like, oh, the Giants are going to be going after James Bradbury too? And so my whole deal with that is this, right? Is I'm skeptical about it because, like, we know for a fact Byron Jones is going to be the number one target unless Yannick Ngakoue hits free agency, which that's going to be a tag and trade situation of mine over the next couple of weeks. But I would be, I would lean Byron Jones more because I feel like he's more of a proven product than Bradbury ever was. Even though I think it was Gettleman that drafted James Bradbury a couple of years ago in Carolina. So if you bring in Bradbury, you're doing that more so because he's familiar with the GM and you know exactly what you're getting. Whereas with Byron Jones, like you kind of would be, you know what you're getting, but you're also passing up on tons of experience. You know, the experience is super valuable.
Byron's going to get paid.
And it should be the Giants who pays him with over $80 million in cap space. He would be a perfect situation where positional need meets elite talent because I think he's an elite talent. And man, James Bradbury, that guy is seeking $15 million a year. Why not just go the extra mile and throw an extra 5 over to Byron Jones at that point? Give him 20 if that's what he wants. James Bradbury, no. He's got a 12% missed tackle rate. That would be a really bad signing to me. I think it's literally only a thing because Dave Gettleman drafted him in Carolina, but I think he's average as average can be, and I think we should be looking to spend our money on somebody with elite talent like Byron Jones or maybe even Chris Harris, play slot cornerback, and just that position is set. James Bradbury, that's one of those signings that will really piss me off if I wake up one of these mornings and I see James Bradbury signed by the Giants, 4 years, $100 million. Yeah, I'm gonna be really pissed.
Yeah, you might have a morning like I did today. Nope.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, but so I was thinking that earlier. I'm like the secondary needs a leader, and so Chris Harris Jr. I would welcome him as well because that's another guy that you look at. He really played at a high level in Denver. I know some people will sit here and be like, "Oh, well, he kind of some of his talent was kind of a product of just a strong front seven because they had like Trevathan, who I've been lobbying for the Giants because he'd give him a good presence next to Isaiah Simmons when he's in a Giants uniform. But you know, Chris Harris Jr. did really well with guys like Derek Wolfe and Von Miller. What's the Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, not the wide receiver that re-signed a couple years ago. But the point is that like him, I think he's a great fallback plan at the defensive back position, especially if you outbid yourself or if you get outbid for Bradbury and Byron Jones. Because I think at a certain point you got to know when to stop bidding for a player, and it's not when the player decides to, oh, well, I'm going to make my decision. It's when you know that this guy's no longer worth the money that he's seeking. And the thing with players is this: is sometimes they go towards where the money is, but other times you have to. When you're a rebuilding team like the Giants are right now, you got to be able to sell them on your vision. And that's why, like, whatever Joe Judge does, whatever Judges and Gettleman sales pitches to these agents over the next couple of days is going to be so crucial towards not just what the team does in free agency, but how their draft plans shape up too. And it's going to be crazy to think that by like next week at this time, we could potentially have an idea of what the Giants are going to do in the draft.
That's what I'm really looking forward to. Like, I'm so interested to see who they sign. I mean, like, I get it. Like, I get what the agents are doing for certain players, like Leonard Williams. Like, they know, like, Edelman's, like, kind of on the hot seat with this third and fifth round pick. Everybody blown out of proportion, I think. But, like, the agent is going to push that narrative and going to seek, like, Leonard Williams to have this $20 million a year deal. They'll eventually come down, you know. They leaked that out. The agent leaked that out to Ian, and that's why that report came out. You know what I mean? They'll get there. They'll close that gap. I'm telling you, he'll be re-signed, and the Giants will have him. and then we'll go on a spending spree, man. It'll be like fucking Christmas.
You know what's gonna? I just have this feeling is gonna happen, and Mike's gonna love this. Anthony, you will hate it though. But Gettleman's gonna figure out a way to bring back Leonard Williams and do so at a price that a lot of people are not gonna like. And then Leonard Williams is gonna go out there and just ball out. And then Mike's gonna be sitting here in like November or something and be like, "Haha, y'all, I told you so."
I want Gettleman to have a bronze statue outside MetLife Stadium, and everybody has to kiss it before they enter.
Don't count on that one.
Yeah, no, especially with freaking Cowboy 19. With Cowboy 19 going around, man, I'm just like I'm avoiding everyone at this point.
Oh man, you broke it down, man. Corona. It's the coronavirus, man.
Yo, actually, they might be shutting my school down. I might be doing the rest of my semester online.
Yeah, that happened at like so they talking about that at my school. I know it happened at like Rutgers, dude, Ohio State. But anyway, forget the only reason we care about these colleges shutting down is because the draft prospects they're gonna help the Giants win a Super Bowl. They're gonna come from these schools. But just looking into it, what are some guys that you're like, all right, absolutely you need to avoid? And for me, this one guy's in free agency without a doubt, Dante Fowler Jr. Because this guy to me is nothing more than a run stopper, and it annoys me because like people are gonna be like, oh well, he had 11 and a half sacks, but before that, for like 4 years, this guy had 8 sacks, right, over a 4 year period. I get one of the issues out with a torn ACL, but even then, when he came back, he was a top 3 pick, and he never really blew anyone away.
Yeah, I would stay away from him as well. Maybe not as much as you would. I think there's definitely some potential because I think part of the problem was being in a bad scheme in Jacksonville, and then I think he did play better in a better defensive scheme with the Rams. I'll say similar to Dante Fowler Jr., Vic Beasley. Now I think that he's someone that the Giants actually should look at on a 1-year prove-it deal because he coming into the league was a 3-4 outside linebacker and edge rusher, and then he got moved over to play defensive end with the Falcons in their 4-3 defense, and it did not serve him well. But they finally returned to that 3-4, and he started to look like the same player from college again. And I think in the Giants 3-4 defense, that could be a great value signing. But the one player that I'm staying away from, we already mentioned it, James Bradbury. I'm not paying an average cornerback $15 million a year just because Dave Gettleman drafted him 5 years ago. Screw that. That's stupid. Thank you. Next.
Ariana. Yeah, my girl. Man, I tell you, who I'm staying away from, I gotta go with like more Eagles, like Ronald Darby. If we gotta go, like do like second tier cornerbacks to sign, I'm staying away from him. Another Eagle that's a free agent. I believe I'm not too positive about this. Is I think their left tackle Jason Peters might be a free agent, but he's like 38 years old.
Yeah, he's a grandpa at this point.
I wouldn't pick him up. Like how long is he gonna last? He could be the next Nate Soldier after a while. Like stay away from those guys. Even like Marcus Mariota. I think I read something that the Giants should go after him to be a backup. I'm like, what are you, crazy? I'm like, he sucks too. Like I don't know. I would say away from those guys.
Well, okay, so Mariota, the deal with Mariota is he'd be more of a reclamation project because this guy's a failed number 2 overall pick, and he's not getting a second big contract for a reason with the Titans because you just never put it all together. And I will say this regarding Mariota, like that's an interesting option for whoever threw that article out there because I think I didn't read the article. Sometimes I just read like certain things. I'll just read the headlines and then know like, all right, this is what this thing means. But the point with Mariota is the fact that he failed them just by not being the guy, because when you're the number 2 overall pick, and I've said this about guys like Trubisky too, when you're the number 2 overall pick, you better be a surefire franchise quarterback. But the point is that Mariota failed the Titans, but the Titans also failed Mariota because he had like 3 offensive coordinators his first 3 years. I mean, he didn't have like a legitimate receiving core around him until A.J. Brown emerged in 2019. And they basically benched him like 6 games into the season. And they handed things over to Derrick Henry. So the point is, like, Mariota, I know a lot of people want to toss him out the window, but you can also see certain arguments for why this guy should, is, like, worth taking a chance on. And you're not even going to commit big money to him. You're just going to commit, like, a 1 or 2 year deal at best, something that's going to look like pocket change with the way the cap space is going to go up with the new CBA.
Yeah, it's familiar. Like him and RG3 is kind of like in like the same situation almost. Former high draft picks. Some injury history, and then they just never really put it together after a while.
So I personally wouldn't hate a Mariota signing as a backup quarterback because I think it could potentially be something similar to a Ryan Tannehill, where if for whatever reason Mariota went in, maybe he's in the right system now because Tannehill was always in the wrong system with the Dolphins. Adam Gase is the worst. Sorry, Jets fans, deal with it. But but I think it could possibly be that Marcus Mariota never had a scheme that fit his playing style the right way, and he never lived up to the hype because of that. But maybe he goes and he backs up for a while, and then for whatever reason he gets put into a starting lineup, and then he just balls out like Ryan Tannehill did. I'm hoping he never gets put into the Giants starting lineup because I hope Daniel Jones stays healthy forever. But you never know. Maybe he just looks great in the preseason, and then we trade him and we get some value back anyway. So I wouldn't hate that signing. I think that could be a pretty decent signing.
Yeah,
Big yawn,
just
Steven.
saying.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is, dude. Okay, I wouldn't see. Here's the thing. I don't think I don't put much stock into preseason trades anyway because some of the guys that potentially could be on the move, those are like guys that shine but did so against like third, fourth, in certain cases, man, even friggin' fifth string guys. But that's look. Bottom line is you need a backup quarterback. From my end, is get a good backup quarterback because Tanny's not going to cut it. Go after some vets in free agency like Danny Trevathan, and then avoid guys like Dante Fowler Jr. And then also consider guys who the production may not show up on the stat sheet. They may not stuff the stat sheet, but they do so much more than people think.
I want team players. I want guys that make other people better. Like I said before with Leonard Williams, man, maybe he becomes better with like a great edge rusher that combines a double team. Maybe he steps up and he becomes this dynamic defensive tackle that not only stops the run, he gets to the quarterback. And he was getting to the quarterback a lot, man. He had a lot of rushes to the quarterback where he just missed them. So listen, build the team the right way, and it looks like this guy's doing it. So I'm with it.
I'll say I agree. Leonard Williams did look like a good pass rusher. He got a lot of pressures. I won't go back into the whole conversation of why I'm not a fan of the trade, but I do think that, yeah, what you're saying is right. I mean, when you've got a good defensive line, pairing that with just an even good edge rusher, like above average good. It doesn't have to be elite, but it opens up opportunities for one-on-one matchups off the edge, and sometimes you get some quick wins and some quarterback sacks. So definitely, yeah, there is value in having a strong defensive line, but at the same time, there is value in having like an elite edge rusher like Jadeveon Clowney, who takes up those double teams there and leaves one-on-ones on the other side for Marcus Golden maybe, or someone else, maybe Kyle Van Noy if they really go ham and get both of them, or Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence on the defensive line. So Giants have a lot of options, and I'll agree. Yep, he is building the defense from inward to outward, and so far so good in my book.
Clowney looks like he wants to come play for us, man. He's putting the word out. He wants to come to New York. I know he has a little bit of an injury history too, but when that guy's playing, man, the guy's kind of a beast.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about the Clowney report. But because Mike, you brought that up. Would you guys want to go after Clowney, especially when you know that because of the injury history and whatnot? And I can tell you guys this right now. I've been told by one person that's very close to the Texans organization that Clowney, since all the trade stuff started back in August, he wanted. He's always wanted Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald type money, and like Aaron Donald right now, I think is making $20 million. Khalil Mack's making $23.5 million. So would you put him in that category? Yes or no?
A notch below. A notch below. I mean, if we sign him, then it's going to take us out of the Byron Jones, I believe, free agency. I would assume, right, guys? I mean,
I would think so.
Right? I mean, if I had the option of him or Byron, sorry, Amp, I think I'm taking Clowney, man.
I would take Byron, but especially because it's definitely a little bit cheaper than Clowney. But I won't complain if they end up with Clowney. If they do throw the bag at Clowney and he takes it, I won't complain too much because, like I said, he's going to be drawing up double teams and it's going to open up a lot of things for the rest of the defense. but also he is like an elite run defender. He's ultra athletic and talented, and he's definitely at least a good pass rusher. He might not be an elite pass rusher like we expected him to be coming out of college, but he's good, and he's better than anything we've got currently. So definitely can't complain if they decide that they want to make that big upgrade, especially because Justin Pennick on Twitter, I'm sure you guys have seen him. He pointed out that if this new CBA passes, the cap space is going to grow by 10 to 15 million per year over the next 3 years. So give it 2 years, and automatically that Jadeveon Clowney cap space has been generated for free. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. That I know GMs are definitely they've got that in the back of their head. That spend now because these big contracts that they're giving now are not going to be as big in a few years, and that happens often. And definitely that's something to keep an eye out with Patrick Mahomes. See if he gets paid this year or next year, because it could be a big difference in money.
That's a real good point.
Oh, my own prediction for the Kansas City Chiefs is they're going to go ahead and renew Patrick Mahomes this year, and then it's going to look like basically. I mean, so look, here's the thing: Mahomes is going to get paid this year, and it's going to be like, yeah, whatever, guys. And then you're going to have Deshaun Watson get the extension next offseason, and I would say next year at this time, or by 2022, let's say in 2 years' time, you could potentially be looking at Watson or Lamar Jackson being like the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. If the cap space goes the way it's going, I think that's going to happen. I mean, Mahomes' contract in like 5 or 6 years is going to look like basically pocket change.
Especially compared to Daniel Jones's after he wins 5 Super Bowls and gets paid for it.
I said over 7, Ant. Like, that's 7 rings. I'm going over that. Over 7. Then I'll have a
Well,
list.
I'm saying in 5 years. In 5 years, he's going to have 5 rings, and then he's going to get paid, and then he's going to get like another 7 after that or something.
Right.
So he's going to end up with like 12. He's going to have like 2 for each finger. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
That makes more sense.
Also, I want to bring this up real quick because we were talking about player contracts and the CBA. Something that's always confused me with the NFL is that if you look at the NBA, right, contracts are fully guaranteed. Like 99% of the contracts in the NBA are fully guaranteed, and they've got a max and they've got like a minimum. And you see a lot of players making, like bench players, role players, making more than superstar wide receivers in the NFL, and it's fully guaranteed too. And I know there's smaller teams in the NBA, but it's always confused me why the NFL's cap space isn't greater and why contracts aren't fully guaranteed in a sport where there's a 100% injury rate for every single player that steps into the league. And that's something that I've definitely had discussions with friends about, but I would like to hear your guys' 2 cents on the matter, because it's definitely, I think it's what the CBA should really be pushing for. The NFLPA should really be pushing for fully guaranteed contracts, in my opinion, and I don't know why it's not talked about more often.
You said it, Ant, because of the injury, the 100% injury rate. These teams see that as an excuse to not guarantee contracts, because then they have to pay another guy to come in and another guy to step up. So I think that's, I mean, you're right, man. The NFLPA, the Players Association, they should really go after that, especially the money like the NFL is making. They're making so much money. I mean,
that's
like he's getting $17 million to just talk about football. I wish I could get $17 to talk about a podcast or like to talk about football. Like, this dude's getting $17 million to just talk football on Sunday and watch a game and be in the booth. I mean, it's the money that's being out there, like DirecTV package. It's like the Thursday night football, the people outbidding like for Thursday night, for Monday night, for Saturday games. It's out of control, man. Like, these guys, like, I kind of feel bad for them in a way because they're not with the NBA, the MLB. Like, they deserve to get paid. They deserve that money. Like, they're putting their like livelihoods on the line. Get paid, man. Get paid. That's why. Yeah, get paid.
That's exactly it. And the NFL makes more revenue than like 2 major sporting leagues combined. They make more money than anybody else, and not enough of it goes to the players, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think so. The deal is this: is in the NBA, you've got much smaller roster sizes, but you also play 82 games compared to the 16 games, right? So a lot of the way it works is these guys are getting paid per game, and then you do have stuff like the playoff bonuses and the bonuses for winning the Super Bowl, etc., that type of stuff. But the biggest difference overall is the fact that one, right, the average career of a guy is like what 4 or 5 years at this point. You look at a position like running back, for example. Why do some of these guys get that second contract and then bust? Because there's so much wear and tear on their tires. So teams are not going to go ahead and be like, oh yeah, Christian McCaffrey, like here we're going to give you another 4 year guaranteed deal. 4 years, let's say like $100 million deal, and then all of a sudden he just busts because then that contract, because it's in writing, it means you have to give them the money. Whereas in the NBA, there's just so much more longevity. Same thing with like baseball, tons of longevity. Now you look at it, right, and there's also, like I just said a moment ago, there's just tons of incentives. Like Eddie Lacy, for example, he was a star with the Packers for like a year, and then he went to the Seahawks where he freaking got fat by eating damn. What do they have on the West Coast? In-N-Out Burger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got fat by eating In-N-Out Burger, and then he absolutely busted. And they put a clause in his contract of, hey, look, right, you need to have your weight at a certain thing. And some of those times, those requirements are like super hard to meet. Like Nick Foles, for example, had he played a certain percentage of the Eagles snaps in 2019, he'd have gotten like $1 million or something. He fell like 3 or 4 snaps short of that goal. So the point is the fact that like the NFL, I mean, the careers are shorter. There's just not much longevity. And then the roster size are also bigger. You're comparing like 53 to, let's just say, like 15 in the NBA, for example. And so as a result of that, there's only so much money to go around.
Maybe they should start putting that in contracts. Like, listen, like, if you become fat, we're gonna avoid your contract. Like, stay away from those extra double cheeseburgers, guy. We gotta cut that out. Hey, listen, NFL, man. Why don't they just play like 80 games a year? Let's pay these guys. We'll watch more football. We'll have like 80 Sundays in a row. It'll be fantastic, man. Everybody goes.
And that's the reason I think that the 17th game, which I believe was capped at $250,000, that's going to be a really big deciding point in this because you can tell like the players don't want that. I think the players will go for the 17th game, but only and only if they're getting paid like they were the first 16 games. I mean, or even 18th game. They would do so because it's an opportunity for them to make more money. But then at the same time, like, let's be real. I mean, who even is damn serious about preseason anymore? We've seen teams like the Chicago Bears. They held their starters out all preseason. So I think the owners are going to bait these guys into saying, hey, look, right, we'll give you this 17th game and we'll give you extra money. But, we're going to get rid of one of your preseason games. And they're also just shortening the training camp times and whatnot. So they're making all these changes, which are kind of benefiting player safety. But it's overall, I think the new CBA, like right now, people have been vocal about it. So yeah, it's it sucks because it's like you could be sitting here in 2021 and there could be a lockout.
Why not like give the guys like on the practice squad like guarantee their money too? Like expand the rosters maybe. Let them have their cut of the pie.
I mean, I just think there's a lot of options that they can do that the higher ups who are much smarter than the three of us could figure out, but they're just choosing not to because they're trying to maximize the NFL owners' profits. And I really don't think it should be about that. I think it should be about the players who are out there week after week getting their heads smacked in. They should be getting as much money as they can, and I think they deserve a larger slice of the pie, and they're not getting it. But almost like a sports politics discussion that we're having, and like I really want to say like it's interesting, but it's also important, and also the way that I look at the NFL, the NBA, MLB, they're not. I don't look at it as a sports industry. I look at it as the entertainment industry. Like you see, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. got what, 250 million or something crazy. It wasn't that much, but it was something crazy for being an Endgame, and I think it's all the entertainment industry because you got $1 billion movies, you got $1 billion leagues, and I mean, these guys, like I hear people complain like, oh, they make way too much money for playing a sport. I could play a sport, I don't make that money, and it's like, but they're really entertainers. They're in the entertainment industry, and that's why they should get so much money. And I think that's why they deserve more money because the entertainment industry is so large and lucrative.
Anytime someone tells me like, "Oh yeah, why do these guys get like whatever 23.5 million a year?" to play a sport, I'm like, all right, well then you go ahead and you do it, and we'll see how you do with like friggin' Khalil Mack running after you. That's just my opinion. I usually get a dirty look most of the time, but it's a necessary answer, man. You know, sometimes regardless of the situation, you just gotta speak your mind, right, Mike?
All right. Plus, you got to deal with people like me talking shit about you if you don't perform. Like, you know what I mean? That's worth the $20 million a year. You don't have to hear my boys talking bad about you.
Well, okay, so that criticism is justified. The reason being is because you praise a guy when he does well, but then you criticize him when he does wrong. You know, whereas if you're one of those guys like, oh yeah, I'm just always gonna root for my guy and never talk shit about him, well then no one's gonna value your opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of my friends think of that, think that about me when I talk about the Giants. So I kind of get where you're coming from.
Well, don't worry, Mike.
Yeah,
We value your
alright.
opinion.
Thanks, Ed.
Of course we do, dude. We're the Brawl Network. Anyways, guys, we're gonna get out of here because it's late, and judging by our voices, you can tell we've all had super long days. Mike is pissed off because people don't support the Leonard Williams trade. Anthony's mad because he lost the basketball game. I've been up since like 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning, guys. But go ahead, listen. We thank you for all your support. We continue to grow each week with your help. We're gonna have some really cool guests on from the Brawl Network in like 2 weeks. He's just joined the network, but he's going to be breaking down the NFL draft with us, even though he's a Dolphins fan. But go ahead and follow me on Twitter at @SadeCoachO. Follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Check out his work on Empire Sports Media. And then Mike also started writing for the Brawl Network website, so he'll have articles up each week. So go ahead and read those and just comment something nice on his articles. One, so you don't hurt his feelings. Two, so I have something to approve. But follow Mike Trainor at Mike Trainor MFT, and then go check out the podcast and Twitter as well. It's at Giants Brawl. You can find us on Facebook at Giants Brawl as well. That is it, guys. We will be back next week. It's been fun being your host for this episode. Peace out.